the fighting in West Mosul is intensifying. We were getting reports a few days ago that the fighting had stalled, but that's actually incorrect. If you just have a look over there, that's where the front line is, and it's from there that thousands of people are turning up at the Hammam al Alil camp for the displaced, internally displaced people. Every day they come here in their thousands with the little possessions that they have to try and seek sanctuary, a safe haven. I've been speaking to them in the past few days and hearing their stories.
They arrive with what little they could carry. These are the tired, desperate and hungry survivors of the caliphate. They've managed to flee not just ISIS snipers, but also coalition and Iraqi airstrikes.
This is the entrance to the Hammam al Alil refugee camp. These buses bring people to the actual camp. And as soon as people start to arrive, the men and the women are separated because they want to screen some of the men to make sure that they're not ISIS fighters or sympathizers.
Near a makeshift school, I meet 12-year-old Mohammed. Mohammed tells me first ISIS snipers killed his father and then his mother as they tried to get away. He fled here with his two brothers. The camp, now home for the orphans. Hammam al Alil is overflowing and people are being asked to either go to one of the other camps or to East Mosul. We travel to the east where in January, after a bitter battle that lasted 100 days, the jihadis were driven out. On the side of the road in the east, Omar, his wife and two daughters are waiting for a relative to pick them up. In the dead of night, they left their homes and the fighting in West Mosul.
Do you want ISIS gone from your city?
God will have revenge on ISIS and those who helped ISIS enter the city.
This is one of the bridges that leads to West Mosul. Here in the east, life is starting to go back to normal. The traffic is flowing, people are coming out of their homes. It's hard to imagine that just a few weeks ago, ISIS was beheading people in these streets.
The battle to retake West Mosul is complicated. The front line is now in the old city and the area is densely populated. I first came to Mosul 4.5 years ago. It was tense even then, with curfews and complaints from the local Sunni population that they were being mistreated by the Shia-led military. This battle is now in its final stages. Iraqi forces may be fighting to free the people of Mosul from the tyranny of the so-called Islamic State and their caliphate. But an even more complex task lies ahead, reuniting a very divided city.
Humanitarian agencies, Kasha, say that more than 200,000 people have left West Mosul since this fighting began. They say that 400,000 people are still trapped in the city and they're expecting about 300,000 others to leave as this fighting and this battle rages on. So it is quite desperate here at the camp. The UN agencies have set up about 30 other camps in and around northern Iraq to be able to house some of these people until the fighting ends.
Yalda, you spoke to so many people who have been through so much. What kind of prospects did they share with you about their future?
They're extremely concerned. I was in the east of Mosul where it's relatively safe now, although yesterday just in one of the markets that we were at, we were hearing about mortar shells being fired there. So the situation is still very fragile and it's difficult to know how safe the area really is, even though it is liberated. The people there are concerned about what's happening in the West. And as I said there in my piece, it's about what happens next. That is the big question. What happens to this very divided city, this very divided nation once the fighting ends? These people are divided on sectarian lines, on ethnic lines, and they've been brutalized by the so-called Islamic State. So there is concern about revenge attacks once this operation has ended.
And Yalda, we can see the camp behind you. What kind of conditions are people experiencing there?
Well, actually, Kasia, the conditions in the camps aren't so bad. They are concerned about food and water reaching everyone. Some people in the camp were complaining that they get one meal a day, but that's much better than the conditions that they fled from. When they were in West Mosul, they weren't just fleeing the snipers and the airstrikes, they were actually running out of food as well. So the conditions here in the camp aren't as bad as some of the refugee camps that I've traveled to in some parts of the world, but they are seeing a lot of trauma from the people. I spoke to some children who were telling me in great detail that their parents were shot dead, that they could hear the airstrikes. So rebuilding this city won't be just about the buildings. I'm currently standing on a former ISIS headquarters, and a lot of the rubble that you see here in this area will have to be rebuilt. So it's not just about rebuilding the destruction, but actually regaining the hearts and minds of these people who are extremely divided.